Welcome to Harvard Halfling, where we talk about Lord of the Rings and a little bit about D&D. So let's get to it. Today we are going over Chapter 6 of Feyenoor and the Unchaining of Melkor. So the chapter begins with this being the noontide of Valinor. This is the peak of Valinor. Everything's just going grand and is full of glory and peace and joy and everything's great. The Noldor have now created the first letters, and Rumiel of Tirion was the name of the lore master, who is the one who records all the speech and the writings, and now there's engravings on metal and stone, so now we have letters. And it talks about how Fenway is the king in Tirion, and of the Noldor, and that he has his first son, Fenway was his name, but his mother called him Feyenoor, spirit of fire, and that's how he's remembered. That's how he's known as Feyenoor. And his mother, Miriam, who was called Serende because of her surpassing skill in weaving and needlework. Oh, Miriam. So it talks about how Fenway loves Miriam. He is in total bliss with her, and they're talking about having lots of kids, having this full family. But Miriam has Feyenoor, and she says that basically she no longer wants to live. She wants to be released from the labor of living, and that she tells Fenway that never again shall I bear children. Basically that the strength that she had to bear children is gone, and her spirit and any nourishing of life that she had is entirely in Feanor. And Fenway now is grieving over this, and he's sad. He sees his wife that he loves dearly basically going through postpartum depression. She's doesn't have a will to live anymore. And so he goes to Manwë for counsel, and then Manwë sends her to Lorien with Irmo and Este. And it says that Fenway is sad that he has to do this because he doesn't like the idea of taking Miriel away from Feyenoor in these early days of childhood, but he doesn't know what else to do. So Miriel says, "It is indeed unhappy, and I would weep if I were not so weary." Like, she has nothing left in her. And so she gets taken to Lorien and is laid down to sleep. And it says that she passed in silence in the halls of Mandos, and that the maidens of Este tended to her body, kept her body fresh. It kind of makes it sound like at some point, if Miriam wanted to, she could have come back to her body. And it says that Fenway, lives in sorrow, and that he goes and visits her body and calls out Miriel's name, calls her by all of her names, to no answer. And after a while, he eventually stops coming to Lorien to see her body, and she passes. And it seems like this is something that the Valar are quite confused about. And I mean, the elves are supposed to be immortal, and yet we have a woman who has had a child now not only die, but choose to no longer live. So, yeah. But then he goes on to say that Fenway gives all of his love to Feyenoor, that, Feyenoor grows to be this strong-willed person and, has this fire within him. And in Feyenoor's youth, he learns the letters of Rumiel and, devises letters to bear his own name. And yeah, he just continues to grow in his own skills, particularly with gems. And it kind of makes it sound like he might have made like the equivalent to a telescope, possibly. It says, and other crystals he made also, wherein things far away could be seen small but clear as with the eyes of the eagles of Manwë. So that's kind of cool. And it says that while he was still young, he ended up marrying Nerdanel, the daughter of Matan, who was a Noldor. And it says that Nerdanel was firm of will, but more patient than Feyenoor, and that she gave some of her patience to their 7 children. So many kids. So, of course, Nerdanel had to have a lot of patience. And then it says that after some time that Fenway ends up taking another wife, Indis, who was a Vanyar, and close kin of Engwe, the High King. And so he marries Indis, and he's, again, greatly in love with her. It sounds like Fenway just has a lot of love to give. But he's very much in love with her. And, they marry and they have 2 sons. And this angers Feanor. He does not like Indis, does not like his brothers Fingolfin or Finarfin, hates it. And the chapter actually says that if things had been different, if Fenway hadn't have married Indis, then maybe the course of Feyenoor would have been different and bad things could have been prevented. That is a lot of pressure on a person. So Feyenoor is not happy. The next part of the chapter talks about Melkor. Okay, so Melkor has served his time. Remember those 3 long ages? Done. He has served them. And now he gets to go to the council and plead for a pardon. And Yenna aids him in that. She's advocating for Melkor. And so Manwë's like, yeah, sure, you can be pardoned. But you have to remain in Valinor. He has to remain in the city of the Valar. And that's it. Melkor kind of goes about his business now. It says that Manwë really believes that Melkor has given up his evil ways. And that basically, because Manwë and Melkor were made kind of from the same thought and are very much alike to one another, that he doesn't want, it almost sounds like he doesn't want to see any more evil in Melkor. And that he doesn't see that Melkor has no more love in him, that he hates everyone, in particular the elves. All of the Eldar, he loathes them because he sees them as the reason for his demise, the reason for his undoing. So he hates them. And Melkor takes on the epitome of keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And so Melkor tries to befriend the elves. It says that the Vanyar live, under the full light of the trees and are content. And so they're suspicious of Melkor. So he kind of leaves them alone. It says that Melkor has no interest in the Teleri, that their tools are too weak and kind of like they're over there. So they're not of my concern. However, the Noldor, who are eager for knowledge and to learn more and to learn everything that they can, these are the ones that Melkor ties in with. And he befriends the Noldor and tries to weasel his way in there. And he even tries to tell people that all the things that Feyenoor does with the gems, he learned that from Melkor, which is a total lie. It's a lie out of lust and envy, it says. And that out of everybody in Valinor and everybody in Aman, Feyenoor hates Melkor the most. That Feyenoor has so much selfishness and greed within himself that there's no way he would seek counsel from any of the Valar, including Melkor, that he wasn't gonna. He hates Melkor. He wants to do things his way and his way only. And it says that he seldom takes counsel from anyone. And sometimes he takes counsel from Ner'Danel the Wise, his wife, but even that is very seldom. And so Feanor is kind of a jerk, for being honest. He's coming off very jerk-like. So yeah, that's this chapter. My thoughts. First, with Melkor. Let's talk about that first. And Nienna. Oh my goodness. Okay, two thoughts on this. Either Melkor has already kind of charmed his way with Nienna, and so that's why Nienna's advocating for him. I don't really think that's the case. I think it's more likely that Nienna is so compassionate and so naive that she's advocating for Melkor, which is insane to me, because Nienna's whole thing is that she has so much sorrow and grief and mourns for Arda because of the marring of Melkor, that the music of the Ainur is full of her lamentations. Like, why are you advocating for the man that's caused your sorrow? I don't understand that part. So I think that kind of just shows Nienna's, compassion. I think she maybe wanted to see the best in Melkor. I don't know. But that is just bizarre to me that Nienna, of all people, are advocating for him. And the book even says that Mondos, her brother, is just silent. He's not saying anything. Which, this is our doom bringer. And he's just like, I'm not going to say anything. And Manwë, I feel bad for him too, because he's deceived as well. I really do think that he just doesn't want to see the bad in Melkor, because maybe that would mean that he had bad in him. I don't know. Everybody just seems really naive to this, except for two Valar who are just becoming more and more dear to my heart. Ulmo, for one, who seems like he doesn't take crap from anybody, and also isn't around very often. It says that Ulmo and Tolkis, aren't fooled by Melkor and are highly suspicious of him, and that Tolkis, oh, my king Tolkis, every time he saw Melkor in Valinor, he would clench his fist because he wanted to beat the crap out of him. But because of Manwë, he restrained himself because he didn't want to go against Manwë's pardon, basically. But Tolkis, that man. Oh, I love myself some Tolkis. So yeah. So all of that is just bizarre to me. Also, the Vanyar being suspicious of Melkor. So it says that, and mind you, if anyone else has read any more work of Middle Earth, I haven't gotten to that. So all I know is what's in this book right now. So yeah, so when Tolkien says that the Vanyar are in the fullness of the light of the trees and they're suspicious of Melkor, I kind of wonder if that works two ways. Like, one, they're very content with where they're at, which is what it literally says, is that they're content with where they are. So therefore, there's no need to want more. So there's nothing that Melkor could give them. But I also wonder if that works two ways, as in they are in the light of the tree and therefore can better see the darkness. Like, they see that Melkor still has a lot of darkness in him because they're in the light of the trees. I don't know if that made sense, but I'm kind of wondering if that works both ways. Yeah. Next, Feyenoor and Melkor. I think this just shows that Melkor has the ability to deceive people and to charm those around him and deceive them, seduce them. And so he sees that Feyenoor is he's a big deal. Feyenoor is a big deal. And so Melkor is used, like, almost name dropping Feyenoor and his successes to better his positioning with the rest of the Noldor and probably everybody else. So, yeah. Those are my thoughts on Melkor. Oh, also, again, back to just how conniving he is, that in order to get, or part of getting his pardon, Melkor was like, yes, I'm so much better now. Yes, I will even help you. I will do whatever I can to aid the Valar and to repair all that I have destroyed. And nobody caught on to that nonsense. He just spent all this time in prison. You don't think he's going to be saying whatever he can to not go back to prison? I don't know. Yeah. So those are my thoughts on Melkor. Next, Miriel. Okay. I've read this chapter before because I have read the first part of the Silmarillion before, but I just glazed over this section. And now that I'm kind of in a different mental state than I was the first time I read this, I cried when I read Miriel, which is only like 2 or 3 paragraphs. I cried for her because she's going through postpartum depression. That's what she dealt with. And I know there's probably some debate out there, like whether or not elves can go through the depression, or even if Tolkien really had an understanding of depression, because at that time it would have just been the baby blues and kind of taboo to talk about, which I feel like it still kind of is. But as someone who has experienced postpartum depression, Miriel went through postpartum depression. Like her saying that she has nothing left in her. She has no will to live anymore, no labor in her, and that she doesn't even have the tears to mourn about this. Like, she is hollow. She is empty. She is numb. Yeah. And so, yeah, she went through postpartum depression, and in reading that, just really makes me appreciate more of how Tolkien writes and how he creates his characters, and that even in such a short amount of time, he made Miriel so real. She had a real emotion, and I think that's just total credit to Tolkien's writing. And it's so short. Like, you don't get anything else on Miriel. That's it. And yet, like, when I read that, it just, it hit me so hard. And probably because I'm a girl and I went through that. And maybe that's really girly of me. I don't know. But Miriel has now like a special little spot in my heart now. Because I feel that as a mother to a mother who's gone through that, I feel that. And yeah, and then I kind of wonder if... So Fenway goes to Miriel's body, goes to Mondo's, and is calling out her name. And like I said, it kind of seems like she could have been brought back to her body. But, you know, either she chose not to and then wasn't able to, or I'm not real sure about that. But I kind of, and maybe this is going way too deep into it, but looking at Tolkien being Catholic, what Miriel has done would have been kind of a big no-no to the Catholic Church, right? So what if that also played a part in Tolkien writing that she never answered to Fenway, that like her spirit never came back? she's in the Garden of Spirits and yet she wasn't there. I wonder if that ties into Tolkien's Catholic belief. I don't know, but it just also made me cry even more when I read this and thinking about that. Like, what an awful, awful thought. So, yeah, Muriel, just sad. And in very few paragraphs is very sad. Very, I think, tender to my heart. And yeah, I think also plays into Feanor's character. He didn't have a mom growing up. I mean, he had a loving dad. It sounds like Fenway had a lot of love to give and gave as much as he could to his son. And it says even when he marries Indis, that the chief of his thoughts is still on Feanor. That even after he has his other sons, Feanor is number one on his list. And so yeah, you can't say Feanor wasn't loved, but I think if Miriel had been able to get through what she was going through, if anybody would have known how to handle what Miriel was going through, maybe Feyenoor would have been different. You know, the history of Middle Earth would have been different. I don't know. That's a what if that maybe only Tolkien himself could have answered, and I don't know if that's in any of his letters. But, yeah. So, this one hit hard. Hit home. And then you have the nonsense of Melkor. so yeah. Oh, this chapter made me cry, and I didn't think it was going to make me cry, but so that is chapter 6. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm sorry that it was kind of heavy. I made it heavy, and I'm sorry, but it spoke to my heart, and I wanted to talk about it. So, yeah. Next week, let's see. Next week hopefully won't be as depressing. Oh, I don't know. I think the whole thing's going to be depressing. But we're going to actually talk of the Silmarils and the unrest of the Noldor. So, no, it's still going to be depressing. I think the rest of this is going to be depressing. This was just the tip of the iceberg. So, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I definitely did. It just made me appreciate Tolkien's writing all the more, and how real Middle Earth feels, how real all of his characters feel. I love it. I'm just eating this up, and I hope you guys are enjoying it too. And yeah, I'll see you here next week. May the hair on your toes never fall out. Bye.